I think for the longest part of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was lost. If you're starting a venture, then make sure that you have partners. So never start a venture on your own. So if you cannot convince even a single person to be with you to run that venture, it's going to be difficult to run that.
Let's start with your childhood, Param. So, where were you born? What was your family like? What was your
Hmm.
schooling?
Sure. So I was born in Jalandhar. And then Jalandhar is a town, as you may know, in Punjab. Uh, Primarily at that point of time, popular for creating sports goods. So that means if you were to buy a
Yes.
racket, a bat, or a ball, more likely than not, it would be based out of Jalandhar. As in the manufacturing would have been done in Jalandhar. So I was born there, stayed there for I think a couple of years. Then my dad had a transferable job, so he then shifted to Delhi. He was working with Prasar Bharati at that point of time. So that means Doordarshan and All India Radio. So again in
So he
engineering
was
services.
a central government employee, right?
That's right, central government. Yeah, he
Got it.
not the fancy acting or or audio, but yeah, more towards the engineering side. So he was on the engineering side, and then we shifted to Delhi. We were here for a few years. Shifted to a small town called Bathinda, and then we were there. Then shifted to another small town called Guraya, where they had a large transmitter for All India Radio. Then we shifted again to Jalandhar, and then while they were still based out of Jalandhar, I shifted to Delhi for my education. So
So, how many
and
schools have you changed from LKG to 12th standard?
oh, many. So I would say maybe one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, maybe eight, six, 7 or 8
Wow.
school. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I thought my kids are like they've changed 5 schools so far.
Okay.
I thought that was a big number, but this
Yeah.
is amazing. Okay,
But
eight
generally,
schools.
if your parents are in a transferable job, you tend to change schools. So and I think the advantage for central government was that, as in my we were studying at the Kendriya Vidyalaya, the central school that the government had. So relatively easy to shift anywhere, relatively easy to cope up. So that means whatever was sort of happening in one school in Bathinda, the moment you shift to a school in Guraya or in Jalandhar, as in almost similar syllabus would have been covered. So it's just not exactly the same, but yeah,
Got
almost
it.
similar. So it is not that difficult as well.
So,
But
but
yeah,
how was
so
it with friends every time you shifted, right?
I think generally my feeling is that sort of kids tend to make friends relatively easily. So for example, I see my children playing downstairs. So so they would change friends like they're changing clothes. So now my daughter is 7, so if she's playing with a friend, two would fight, the other two would play, and then within a few minutes the same two would be playing. So it's very easy to get people to sort of form friendships. I think when they're young, it becomes much more difficult as you grow older, like I am now. But when you're young, it's easier to form those friendships. I think that's one of the fun part of being a child. So I think friendship was not an issue. Um, Generally, adjusting in a new location could be, but I think government takes good care of you when you shift. So I I, I think that was not that difficult. At least I don't remember that being too much of hassle, at least from my perspective.
Nice, nice. So, tell me, Param, what were your some of the lowest points in your school life, if you were
School
to
life,
remember?
generally, apart from maybe a few a few moments, I didn't like that too much. There was just too much pressure around. So when you are a kid, again maybe for the first 5 classes, 6 classes, I don't remember much, but I think towards 11th, 12th, so I sort of wanted I didn't. My parents wanted me to be an engineer. I don't know what I wanted to be, but my parents wanted me to be an engineer. And I think generally the system in India, in that sense, is very very competitive. So it was difficult to study, enjoy studies, at least from my perspective, because I didn't like that too much. But yeah, so sort of that made life a little difficult. So look, see, I think if your interests are aligned to what you want to do, maybe it's not that difficult. But for me, it was relatively difficult to cope up with school. So I didn't like schooling too much. After I got into the college, things were much better. I loved the college. I loved studying in IIT. I loved
No,
sort of
no, but
forming those
coming back
friendships.
to
Yeah.
your schooling, Param, because
Hmm.
you didn't like your 11th and 12th. You didn't know
I
that
didn't like
you
it.
wanted. You didn't like.
But I didn't like
Then,
it.
how did you manage to get into IIT then?
I I I generally attribute it to luck, but yeah, even if I didn't like it, my sort of parents, teachers, they did sort of force me to study hard. So it's almost like forcing somebody to study hard. Um, I I could do well in studies. I don't know. I was doing fairly okay in studies, but it's not that I loved maths or I loved physics. It's that I could do it, but it was mostly push from my parents, teachers, that I could do it and I should do it. So it was mostly a push model rather than a pull model, which is very surprising. But this is what the truth is. So they pushed me hard
What did
to
you want
study.
to become? What did you want
I
to become? You had
I didn't
any
know
idea?
for the longest part of life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it was like I didn't know whether I wanted to be an engineer. So, but yeah, that was the closest, as in that looked something of semblance to me, at least. My father he loves maths, by the way. So he would force me to study maths. He would teach me maths. My teachers, again, I think they may have seen something in me. They were also coaxing me to coaxing me to sort of study. But I think for the longest part of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was lost. So I definitely did not uh, aspire to be an athlete.
Okay.
I was okay at studies. That's the closest I think I could do, and that's probably why I did that. But yeah,
So
so
11th and 12th was suffocating, to say the least, in terms of.
not, I would not go to the extent of suffocating, but uneasy is the right word.
Okay.
So it
Nice.
wasn't that I was very happy doing what I was doing, but yeah, uneasy. So it's like you are in a conflict at that point of time. It is not that you are suffocating or you're going to die, but yeah, it was uneasy. So it was
So
not
this
coming naturally to me.
nice. So because you use this word conflict, right? I mean,
Yes.
conflict is when there is a competition between two opposite options.
Sure.
So here you had engineering or science as one option, and the opposite option was still work in progress. You weren't sure.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely.
is that a conflict or ambiguity which you were uneasy about?
Maybe it is an ambiguity, and I think yeah. Maybe you have pointed out correctly. Maybe it was ambiguity. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so there was an ambiguity there, and probably that's what created the uneasiness in that time frame. Maybe yes.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. So okay, interesting. So then you moved to college, and you got
Then I
into
moved to it.
IIT.
Yep,
See,
yep.
okay, IIT I remember is like, I mean, it still is one of the toughest exams to get through. The entrance is so difficult,
Hmm.
and you were uneasy. You were not clear, and still
Hmm.
you made it, right? So, is that because you took it up as a match to be won, or a fight to be won, or was it
Perhaps
because
yes.
you
Yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
I would say more than me, my parents and teachers took that up. So as a fight, so they did push me hard. But yeah, I think eventually I did study. I did study. I used to like chemistry. Some parts of maths I would like. Some part of physics I would like, but some parts of physics I did not understand very well. So for me, one of the biggest issues was I could not remember too much. So wherever there is a game of remembrance, that was relatively tough for me. And again, a lot of maths, physics, chemistry is about remembering stuff. I could not do that well, but I could deduce things. So deduction comes relatively easy to me. So I could deduce things, and that means I would have to go from scratch for a lot of problems that I wanted to solve. And but again, I was doing okay. I would not say that I wasn't doing well in school. I was doing okay,
Okay.
maybe better than average. And IIT, I think a lot of these examinations are more about your chance and luck at that point of time as well. So for example, what I got as in the examination was perhaps something that I'd studied well. So interestingly, there was not much of trigonometry, which I had not done. There was not much of mechanics that I had not done, and the rest of the stuff sort of I had done well. So maybe that's one of the reasons I could clear the examination. But I would not say that I was fully prepared that I would do well. But I did well at that point of time. There were a lot of exams also. It was not that IIT was the only examinations. A lot of state examinations, a lot of pressure. So
Mm,
I did well in most of the examinations. But I would
nice.
still not say that uh, that that I was working very hard, or like it was a passion that I wanted to do maths. That's why I did well. Hardly.
So you were still not playing your game, but you were just
I was
going
still
with
not playing.
what um,
Yes. Yeah.
you just went with what others wanted you. So, I mean, are we trying to get to a point where yes, you did not know what to do, so you trusted believable people in your life and went with
Yes.
their okay,
Perhaps,
okay,
yes, yeah. I would agree with that statement, yes.
nice, nice. So, and how was your journey in IIT?
Oh, I love that. So that part of my life I loved completely. So that is one place where sort of you are encouraged to do whatever you want to do. So uh, it's a it's a place of freedom, I would say. After school, especially, it's a place of freedom. You move out of your home, you are with your friends, uh, and IIT gives you tons of flexibility. So you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. You don't like a course, you can drop that course, do something else. So there is obviously there are some courses that are fixed in nature. That means core to your syllabus. Apart from that, everything else has an element of flexibility. You're allowed to explore. You have time at your hand. So mine was a 5-year course. So I had so ample amount of time at my hand to try understand everything. I would again not say that right off the bat I was doing well at IIT. So my first year was a mess. So
Hmm.
so I flunked a lot of courses in the first year, and the reason in my mind was that I didn't want to study. So when I got out of school, my parents would say that school is probably the toughest. You have to study in school, and when you get into college, you are free to do what I want to do. And I got all the flexibility in the world in the first year, and I misused that. I I didn't do well in a lot of courses. I literally scored a 6 point something in my first year. But I remember then at some point in time I realized uh, that I had to study, and there was nobody forcing me at that point of time. But I realized that I had to study if I wanted to do well in life,
I'm
and that changed
curious. You
everything.
said you misused flexibility,
Yes.
right? So, was it because freedom was too much to take?
No, I was, as I told you, I was coming after a lot of stress. So where I would do something that I didn't want to do, and now all of a sudden you have all the flexibility in the world where you decide what you want to do. So there's nobody forcing you to do what you have to do, and so I got the flexibility. I use the term misused because uh, see, every freedom has its own sort of
Yes,
strings attached to it.
yes,
So
yes.
I didn't use them properly because I could have used the flexibility. I could have used the time to play. I could have used the time to study as well. So there was enough time to play and study as well at IIT, but I didn't study. So, and interestingly, I didn't play also. So it was not that I was becoming an athlete at IIT. So I completely used the time while away with friends. But interestingly for me, as in the dots connected in the end. So people with whom I spent a lot of time, uh, they are
No, I just
probably
missed
the
you,
best
Param.
friends for me.
As the dots connected, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
missed you
So
there.
people with whom I spend the most amount of time, maybe whiling away time. So they are the best friends that I have right now, and
Nice.
you are what your friends are at this point of time. So they are all the help that you can get. So even though at that point of time I didn't study, I didn't play, but I made a lot of good friends, which have which have helped me a lot in my life. So so I think the friendship and the bond comes uh, with having spent that time without any ulterior motive attached to it. And interestingly for me, I spent a lot of time with my friends without any ulterior motive. So that has gone a long way in my life.
Very nice. So I believe then probably the first year you were learning decision making, right?
That is right. Or I had decided that I would not do anything. So so So, but yeah. So when I realized that I had to do, I did well then. So I would say that there is a turning point in my life. So after first year, after the first minors, I clearly remember till that point of time. So IIT usually has a minor system. So there are two minor examinations and one major examination. So I remember till the first minor in the third semester, I did not do anything at all. And
Hmm.
when those results came in, I saw that I wasn't doing well and I was going to do very, as in, this was not the way to move forward. And that changed everything for me. And I clearly remember the examination as well. So there was a numerical optimization examination. I completely did not do well in that examination. And I could have done well. And eventually I did do well in that as well. But yeah, so at that point of time, I realized I had to study. So there was no way out of that. And and that changed almost everything. Maybe I clearly remember the time or the exam that was there that I didn't do well in, and I changed for better. I still made those friends. I still enjoyed
From
life.
that moment on, you were a serious student at IIT.
I would not go to that extent as well, but yeah, I did study as well. So in IIT, there are a lot of use cases. So people who are serious, who utilize all their time to study. I would not say that I at any point of time I went to that extreme. But yeah, I did study. So I would say that I became more balanced after that point of time.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
So I think
So
balance is
far
the right keyword.
balanced, right? You understood what it takes to play the game and still have your
Correct.
time around it.
That's right.
Nice, nice. I mean, I'm just trying to uh, summarize your life so far. The challenges where ambiguity makes you uneasy and freedom creates decision making challenges. Nice. Let's move on from IIT. What else happened after IIT?
So then, as I said, I did well. I would sort of at one point in time, I was like maybe at the last bottom two, three in my class. At some point in time, I never went to the top, but yeah, I did get midway better than average. So at that point of time, I realized I could do well if I studied hard. And then, as usual, I would go out. Again, there are multiple sort of decision points in life. So do you go in for an MS at that point of time? A lot of people would go for further studies, MS, MBA, job, going outside India. So I got a decent opportunity with a company called First Train, and and they were doing some very high tech work based out of Delhi. I had an offer from Pune as well, but I thought I would stay in Delhi. My parents at that point of time had shifted back to Delhi. So, and a lot of my friends from IIT also joined that company. So it was like close knit firm. that didn't have a very good business model. But again, I got my friends to be there with me. Yeah. So I joined that company and enjoyed that time as well. So I would say that was again some mixed time, and again kind of indecisiveness.
Indecisive phase, right? See, I just
Yeah.
want to go back on the word you used, Param. You said business model, right?
Mhm.
At that time, when you joined them, were you able to discern the business model per se
Not
of
at
the?
all. Not at all. Not at
Not at
all.
all. Okay.
So all I wanted to do was that do something in technology, make sure that sort of whatever I was doing made sense for me. But
Huh,
now that I
huh.
look back, I see that they did not have a clear business model. Now that I'm running
Hmm.
a company, I can see that they did not know how to make money or where they would be making their money from. So, but the team was an A grade team. Even the top management team was A grade. They could raise money at their will and lots of money. So that means they could hire people uh, and create cool technology. But that cool technology did not have a clear market. And that is what I realized now at that point of time. Obviously, I just wanted to do something interesting, and that I could do there.
So, moving on. So, from there, you were in employment, and then you go. When did you get into entrepreneurship? What was the tipping point to get into entrepreneurship?
No, no. So as I said, I was confused. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, and and I was still confused. So so I would say that just because of confusion, it's easy to take a decision that everybody thinks is right. So I
Correct.
applied for MBA, got into IIM Indore, and I joined IIM Indore because although I liked the work that I was doing, but again, the number of options that are there in front of you, it's very difficult to decide whether the green grass is greener on the other side. So I just, because of indecision, I just moved on and said I'll do an MBA, and I
Hmm.
just went for an MBA, and and the confusion still continued. As I said,
So,
large part of
IIT plus IIM. So it's
yeah,
like I
I still
remembered it's a
yeah
priced combo to have,
yeah
and you were still, I would say, thriving in ambiguity even when you
yeah
came
yeah
out of. Uh,
absolutely absolutely yeah.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah, and MBA, I knew one thing that I wanted to do well. So MBA, right from the word go, I I knew that I had to do well. So education wise, I had to do well. At that point of time, IIM Indore was relatively new, so maybe not my first choice as well. I thought a lot whether I should join or not. Because most of my other classmates would have gone to a relatively older IIM, so they would have gone to an ABC. Maybe L was an okay choice. I, Indore, and Kozhikode at that point of time were very new, but I still took up the offer. It wasn't a bad option, but yeah. So I wanted to make sure that that going from IIT Delhi to IIM Indore, I did not mess up that opportunity as well. So
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
I
hmm, hmm.
I didn't want to be at the bottom of the class in a new IIM for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
so so I think that clarity I had. So I did well. I almost secured the top CGPA in my class. So but that doesn't mean that I knew what I wanted to do. It was I wanted to make sure that I did well in class, but obviously I didn't know what I wanted to do. So
You won the battle, but you were still confused which war were you trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
conquer.
yeah, yeah. I didn't know that. Absolutely, I didn't know that. So and I
And
still
what?
made a lot of friends. I made a lot of
Uh,
friends. So all my batchmates I am good friends with. So
you
so
seem to
yeah.
be an easygoing person, right? As as
I think
an
as you grow older, it becomes more and it becomes tougher and tougher. But yeah,
uh.
I have good batch. Maybe I had good batchmates, so it was easy to to form those relationships as well. So yeah, so but yeah, I passed out of IIM, but and then I joined IBM,
Okay.
and though the work was very exciting, so it was consulting. I joined IBM, but I
In India
always
or
thought
abroad?
in India, in
In
India,
India.
in India. So yeah, so that point of time, till that point of time, I was sure that I wanted to be in India. I did an internship in Switzerland, and personally, I did not like it too much. So I thought that India is what made me comfortable, And
Any specific reason you didn't like Switzerland? I'm just curious to know.
I thought life was tough out there. So in India, you get a lot of support from family, uh, from friends around you. So it's easy to mingle with people. I think most of the outside places get you alienated relatively faster. So and it's hard. So physically, it's hard. You have to do everything on your own,
Oh
which
yes.
yeah.
Tell
So
me, we are
I
going through that phase in US. It's a complete DIY life.
yeah. So I didn't know how to do that. So in fact, I remember one specific instance. So when I went to Switzerland, I didn't know how to cook. So I just reached there on the I think Easter day or one of these days. Yeah. So and where I was staying, the landlord took me and said, "Why don't you buy grocery because the stores are going to be closed for a week now." So and I thought, oh yeah, I have to buy something. So I just bought bread and maybe a few eggs. And he said, "Boss, it's going to be closed for a week. So why don't you buy some rice and other groceries as well, so that you can go through the week,
Mm, mm,
not
mm.
just on eggs and I didn't know how to cook, so I knew nothing. So, so in India we are a pampered lot, right? So
Yes,
mothers would
yes,
cook and
yes.
wives would help. So and at some point in time, the I just bought whatever I thought I would be able to cook. So eggs and bread and butter. So that's what I knew how to cook. But yeah, then I bought uh, potatoes and an onion at some point of time because I got bored of eating just the eggs and the bread. And I that point of time, Skype was the I think the only
Mm,
messenger
mm,
possible. So I asked my
mm.
mother how do I cook maybe aloo matar, and she said or rice. She said, okay, you put rice in a cooker and put some water, and it takes 40 seconds to cook. I said, this is simple, so I just put it 40 seconds. I said, this is still rice and water. You cannot eat this. She said, this is 40 seconds after you get the pressure on the pressure cooker. It's not 40 seconds the
Ah.
moment you put that on the burner. So that was my level of expertise in terms of cooking. But I did learn some part of it while I was there. But yeah, so jokes
And
aside,
then you
it
decided it's
wasn't
not for
easy.
me.
Yeah,
Get it,
it wasn't easy to be there. And
get it,
then
get it.
in India, I had a lot of friends there. It wasn't possible to make a lot of friends. And their culture is very different. So each weekend they would go for swimming, boating,
Yes, it was an
hiking.
outdoor life, right?
So,
Yes, yes,
so
yes, yes.
even though, as in, you are not obliged to do that, but you feel left out. So you feel that they are doing something that I'm missing. So in that, in a nutshell, it's a different culture. It's a different place, and I thought I gelled better in India.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
yeah,
hmm.
so
How long were
after
you in Switzerland? How long were
I was
you in
there for three
Switzerland?
months. Yeah, two or
And
three
which
months.
part of Switzerland was it?
So there was a place called Yverdon-les-Bains. So that's close to Lausanne. So it's
Okay.
not very far from that. Yeah, but Switzerland is anyways a small place. So if you go from Zurich to Geneva, that's literally 2 hours. So it's not a very large place. So yeah, but then I was there for some time. I came back. I joined IBM, and IBM is a very very nice place to work. So they take good care of their employees, and I was based in Bangalore. It was consulting. I told them that I wanted to be in financial services, so they put me on a financial services project. So it's a very nice employer, but I always felt alienated. So I stayed there for
Why was that you felt
because I was
alienated?
confused. Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So yeah, so I worked there for just 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 or 10 months. Yeah, and then I shifted to Accenture. In the meantime, I got an offer from Microsoft in the US, and I almost accepted that offer till the point I remembered that I wasn't cut out to cook. So and and
So
and
cooking psyched
uh,
you out, huh?
yeah. So so cooking and all the stuff around managing that. But yeah, so and my friends told me that this is something that you would face an issue with. So I remembered that, yeah, that was going to be a tough one. So I did not accept it eventually, but yeah. So
Hmm, 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 hmm.
then I sort of took up an offer with Accenture, and that I liked. So that job I liked. So that was more of consulting. I liked that job. Better consulting work, so not just tech consulting. Because in tech consulting, initially I felt that I was programming, I was creating those systems, and now I was just implementing those systems. So for me, that work looked like a downgrade of what I was doing earlier. Earlier I was creating, and now I was just sort of selling and implementing that for a bank. So I thought that didn't make sense. So, but Accenture was in terms of work quality, in terms of employer, Accenture is as good an employer as IBM is. So they take good care of their employees. It was far better work. I loved that, and that was
Hmm.
more problem solving. So you would get a problem, and you have to solve that problem for the client. Those problem sets are very varied.
Hmm, hmm,
So,
hmm, hmm.
and I just love doing that. So
So how
so
long
that
were
was
you in employment from a time
I
period
then
perspective?
stayed with Accenture for a couple of years. Then again, sort of that fear of missing out. So I got my friends who were working in investment banking. They said that investment banking was much hotter than consulting. So why don't you shift into investment banking? I got an opportunity, and I thought I would do that, but that place I hated. So I the kind of culture and cutthroat life. I hated that. There was no problem solving, just creating presentations, running around. So I didn't like that. So I just was there for, I think, maybe a few months, maybe 8, 10 months. Did consulting. Oh, sorry, investment banking as well. So then I got married, and by that time, I think clarity had set in. I had changed a lot of jobs. I had tried my hand at a lot of things, and I thought perhaps what interested me the most was one, problem solving, and two, owning the problem completely. So that means I had to be in the driver's seat for deciding on what I want to do. uh, that's what I figured I liked. And the other thing is that I wanted to make sure that sort of that I was solving some tough problems. So, and that's when, and I sort of, the back of my mind, I thought that I wanted to be an entrepreneur for always. So that part I always thought I wanted to do, but it's not easy to leave your corporate job, especially when you're getting married, and and you're doing okay. So life is going on smoothly. So, and there's a lot of pressure from elsewhere that that this is a coveted job. So being in banking or consulting, I took that decision. So, interestingly
How
for
old were
me,
you when you decided to get out of employment?
so I got married at 28, maybe 29. Yeah. So about the time I got married. So my wife, she's a doctor, so she was completing her MD, and that's when I started. So we just got married. Maybe I stayed in the job for a couple of months more, and then I started this with friends from IIM. So yeah, so both of them are my friends from IIM, and one of them was a sister of one of my friends from IIM. So yeah, so again, a closely knit founding team, and that's what I started. But beyond that, I got a complete clarity what I wanted to do. I was clear that I wanted to be an entrepreneur after I started that. I loved doing that, and that's when I stopped switching jobs and
Nice.
was, yeah, became maybe at peace with what I was doing. But
Brilliant. So
this
now
till this
let's.
point of time, yeah, till this point of time, it is mostly struggle to figure out what I wanted to do. But I think
True.
one thing, one thing I learned in life is that till you find that, you should keep struggling. There's no point cribbing about what
True.
you're doing and not trying to figure out what you should be doing.
Ah.
So that part I was always clear about, and that again came as a realization. Till some point of time, I was always cribbing what I was doing with life.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
yeah,
hmm, hmm,
at
hmm.
one point of time, I decided that I would not crib, but I would solve for what I wanted to do, and
Got it.
took me some time. It took me a lot of
Uh,
time, not some time, but it took me a lot of time. But when I realized uh, this part came naturally to me. So problem solving, even though sort of when I was with Accenture, I would Accenture or with banking, we would usually meet the top brass of the companies. Obviously, if you're doing an IPO for a company, you would just meet the CEO, maybe the CFO, and they would take out time to make sure that they are free when you are there. And similarly with consulting, you usually speak with very senior folks. When I started EduPristine, life was very different. So we would travel in a in a normal second class. It was very difficult to get appointments with people, which I thought would be easy. But I still loved that. I never thought that that this was tough. I never thought that. So even though Accenture IBM take good care of you, they let you stay in the best hotels, give you air flights that are convenient to take. But 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 this was much more enjoyable, even with all the extra effort of traveling without a reserved compartment, without a reserved seat on a second class. There's still much more fun than yeah. So that's when I realized that this is something that I wanted to do, even with all the discomforts coming in. This is something I still enjoyed doing.
oh, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I can completely resonate with your journey. I quit city when I was 26.
Hmm.
From first class to unreserved train travel. It's happened in life, 4 employments in 2 years.
Hmm.
But you're right. I mean, ambiguity kills, right?
That's
That's
right.
the
Yeah.
real game. But what I'm curious to understand, you see, this is something again. I'm asking this question based on my own experience. I really knew what I did not want to do when I quit
Hmm.
employment.
Hmm.
But in business, it took quite some time to really understand what I was actually trying to do. Now,
Hmm.
is that something which that clarity in terms of, okay, I don't want to be an employee, I want to be an
Hmm.
entrepreneur, so that decision is made.
Sure.
What precisely are you trying to solve? How
Hmm.
did that clarity, was that there at the inception of your venture, or that also evolved over time?
I I think that is an ever evolving story. It's not that you start with a business plan and that's what you end up with. So I think that part is always evolving. So it's like a living organism. So whatever you're doing right now may or may not work tomorrow. So as long as you're ready to try out something that's new, I think that keeps changing. So when we started, we wanted to do two things. So one, we wanted to be a marketplace for education content. So similar to what Udemy is today, we wanted to be that. And the other is we thought that there were a lot of engineering college students that were coming out of colleges, and there was a big opportunity to train them and make them employable. And both of them turned out to be mirages. So especially the second one, which we tried 2 or 3 times and burnt a lot of
Second is more like
money
a
before.
finishing school, you were saying.
Yeah, finishing school for engineering graduates. So that is a mirage that we ran after, I think, twice, and that's where we burnt a lot of time and money. Especially from my perspective, I worked very hard to do that, but that does not happen. So yeah, but that I think is okay. So that story of what would eventually work, that I think is just like life. So you don't know what's going to work for you tomorrow, and even if it's working out tomorrow, you may still have to find something um, that works that that works day after tomorrow, right? So even if it's working today, it may not work tomorrow. So you still have to um, keep finding out what would work. So that is okay. I think that's just a part of being an entrepreneur, and
So,
not an
uh,
entrepreneur. Even Microsoft has to figure out what has to be done tomorrow.
exactly. So, what started was driven by a need to not do something, and then because of which you identified a problem to solve, and the definition of the problem or the path to solve that problem consistently evolved from where you originally conceived to what it eventually became.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But I think that part did not trouble me. So for example, let's say
Exactly.
yeah,
Huh.
me deciding that I wanted to create a marketplace for educational content and that not working out, that never troubled me.
Because you were playing your own game, right?
Yes,
At that
I
time.
wanted to do that. Yeah, I wanted to do that, so I was very comfortable doing that. So that part did not trouble me. So the ambiguity in terms of whether this would work out or not, or this is not working out, I have to find something else. That almost never troubled me. It's obviously on a day-to-day life you get disappointments
Correct.
that this is not working out, but that would not, let's say, let me think that this is not what I should be doing or I should be working with Accenture again.
Yes.
Yeah, so that feeling never came to me at least.
Because that was more uncertainty and not ambiguity at that time. Because you were
Yeah,
clear on what to do,
yeah, I was clear on what I wanted to do. Yeah,
but
and
you
even
weren't
if
sure on
it's
the outcome.
yeah, even if it was not working out, but
Correct.
still that part did not trouble me. And I think one of the
Correct.
biggest reasons for that not happening is probably I had a great co-founding team. So
Hmm.
that means that support system of running a company was always there, and it was a large team. Four people is a relatively large team of co-founders, but that support that came, I think that never made me rethink that this is what I should be doing. So in Accenture, I was always thinking whether I should be doing this or not. IBM, I was always thinking whether I should be doing this or not. At my investment banking job, I knew that this is not what I should be doing. But when I started with EduPristine, the question whether I wanted to do EduPristine or be in a job, that never came to my mind.
No, very interesting because I mean, I'm just to say one of the things we do in this conversation, Param, is trying to derive principles of life, universal truths which come through. Because, and I'm the firm believer that mankind needs it to be reiterated to start adopting it. From what you're saying, I mean, process ambiguity troubles, outcome ambiguity does not. Because
Yeah, no, even see, when you're running a firm, process is also ambiguous in nature because
process here is about running a firm or being an employment, right? That's the journey you're taking, and the destination, whether it is going to be what it was. So the destination you're still open to explore, but not the journey.
I you see, if you think of a journey as the next step on what you want to do, how do you want to sell, whether you want to manufacture something, whether you want to do that, that is still a process, right? So, and I don't know really. So, what was troubling me, or
No, from what you're saying, I mean, this is something I'm just trying to correlate the conversations with founders. Basically, I mean, where we are, when you don't know what you're doing, or when you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it
yeah,
troubles.
it troubles. Yes,
It troubles,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely,
Uh, Now, when the why is answered,
yes,
what comes at the end of that, which is the outcome, whether it happens the way you want it or otherwise, it's only a mismatch of expectation,
correct, correct,
but not an
correct, and then
alignment challenge.
yes, yes, yes. That is right. That is right. So the outcome not coming in is, I cannot say that I am not impacted by the outcome. That would be foolish of me to say. But yeah, but the outcome not being as per my expectation is, let's say, is a single day disappointment. But that single day disappointment is again sort of more than compensated by the 100 days that you fought for that. So you enjoyed those 100 days, and now there's a 1 day disappointment that this did not happen, and the next day you move on in life. Whereas if you are not happy with what you're doing, if you're not happy with what you're doing, it's 100 days disappointment followed by a single day of salary which you may love.
Exactly,
So
exactly,
it's
exactly.
just the other around. So I think entrepreneurship, if you enjoy doing that, you enjoy that for 100 days, you fight for something. It happens, you enjoy that fruit. If it doesn't happen, you move on in life and then do something else. The other was
Yes,
just the other way around. So I would work for 30 days. and be disappointed for those 30 days to be followed by a single day of happiness. That's when you get your salary and you don't even know what you do want to do with that salary. So,
Get it.
but yeah,
Exactly.
so I think
No, no,
that's the key difference.
I think this is exactly where we are getting at, right? In terms of your lives, and brilliant. And your first venture, you sold.
Yeah, first ventures we raised money from Axel Partners, and I think we run that in a bootstrap mode for about 3 years, and we were just out of college. So, so Pavan, Atul, me, Sarita, we just out of college. We did not have any money. It's not too much, not any money. So we bootstrapped that. We never drew any salary, and as I told you, life was tough. We would travel, if possible, second class, whatever. So if you could get a reservation, great. Otherwise, just like that. So I remember post marriage, we stayed as a paying guest with one of my father's friend. So life was tough as such. It wasn't easy, but I enjoyed what I was doing. So and then we raised money from Axel Partners. So money wise, it became relatively easy. So when you got so initially we raised funds from Mark Mobius, Dr. Mark Mobius, and Rajesh Segal, who are angel investors. Then we raised money from Axel Partners, and that made life easy. So in terms of the funds,
And
yeah.
was
So
the exit a profitable venture for the founders?
yeah, we made money. We made a little bit of money. Yeah. So then we sort of got a strategic investment after, I think, after 8 years. 2016, we got a strategic investment from a company called DeVry, which is a listed company in the US. It's now called Adtalem, Adtalem, Adtalem. So we got a strategic funding from them, and then we worked with them for 2 years, and then the founders exited in 2018. So all of us exited in 2018. So yeah, so yeah, it was in that sense sort of we could get the full circle uh, running.
No, but was the exit something which you wanted, or it happened?
It, I, it looked very natural to us. So it looked very natural to us because all of us were doing it for 10 years. We had raised money from Axel, so that means in terms of getting exit for the VC, that writing was on the wall. The moment we raised money, it was clear that we had to exit at some point of time. So and we thought we had a good home for EduPristine because we were already working with them as their single largest partners for CPA training in India. So interestingly, at that point of we started CPA training in 2014, and 2016 we were the largest CPA training provider in India, and we were one of the largest partners for Becker Education, which is the
I know
I think
Becker. Yes,
90%. They control almost 90% CPA training in the US as well. So we were their largest training providers. So it made sense, I think, commercially, business wise, as a home for our business. Because if you wanted to grow, say, IPO, etc., in India for an education company is relatively difficult. So
mm.
the only exit option that's left is a strategic investment, and in
Strategic
that
coming. Huh?
sense, Becker was a good strategic partner for
Yes,
us.
and generally when strategics come, that is the effectively the more like an exit for the entrepreneur team, right? I mean, the strategics would want to control the game from there on.
That is right. That is right. So yeah.
And
So
from there to your next venture, which you started, I mean, what was the difference when you started your next venture compared to your first venture?
so when we exited EduPristine, as in we were uh, sort of clear about a few things. So we wanted to make sure that did something around technology. So our first venture was EdTech. We wanted to make sure that we were doing something around technology when we started a new venture, and that was one thing. The other is that we wanted to make sure that we were making in India, but we were trying to sell in the US. And and from US perspective, as such, when my co-founder Pawan and I started, we had no sense of the US market as such. So we did not know what would sell there, whether a product could be created for that market, because obviously we had not been selling in the US at any point of time. None of us had stayed for a long time in the US, so we had been to the US, but that was more like a visit or business. But we never sold in the US, so we thought it was going to be difficult uh, to articulate a product for the US market, and it was easier to start from a services perspective. Yeah, because that's where sort of you don't have to invest in a big product. You can start small. It's profitable from day one because the services that you're providing for, you get paid for it. Probably the working capital gets logged, but that's okay. So we had enough money to put in that and then run it. And then we thought we would try to do something that did not require too much of VC capital, because then you are bound by the fund's life, or trying to grow very fast, which may or may not be feasible from the business perspective. So we thought we would do this, as we would start this as a services business, and that's where we started. But we sort of then created a lot of products, a lot of cutting edge products as far as services are concerned. We had good technology background, both Pawan and I had good technology background. So we got some good projects in that sense.
Nice, nice, very nice, very nice. So, Param, if I were to look at your life and then you were to tell your grandkids what to do, and I know you're definitely not there, it's still at least decades away, but this is something where if you were to reflect on your life and say,
Hmm.
what is it that you would encourage them to do and not do, purely based on what you've been through as an experience in your life?
Hmm. So yes, I don't know, as my kids or my grandkids, and I'm close because my son is in class 10. So I would encourage them to spend their time wisely, because I think that's not coming back at any point of time. So everything else goes and comes back. Time does not come back. So so spend time wisely, and I'm not saying that you don't while away your time. Spend it wisely, as wisely as you can at that point of time. So study, and I would say study hard, as hard as you can, and try to make the maximum out of that, because anything that you anything that you get from the books, that's very valuable. So study hard, try to understand what you're doing. The other is, my in my life I found that friends are a big support system. Friends, family, they are a big support system, and don't take them lightly. So and again, without any ulterior motive, try to create as many friendships as you can, and as many relationships as you can. So man is a social animal. So try to utilize that fact, create friendships, help people, and pay forward. So I think uh, that will really add value.
Pay
And
forward.
yeah, pay forward.
Okay.
And if you're starting a venture, then make sure that you have partners. So never start a venture on your own. So if you cannot convince even a single person to be with you to run that venture, it's going to be difficult to run that. So you asked me whether I was concerned that the venture would work or not. So my reason of not getting too much concerned about that was that I had three more smart people doing that with me full time. So they had left their jobs. They were doing it with me. So if I was dumb enough to do that, there were at least three more people, three more people in the world who were dumb enough to do that.
Nice.
So that gave me some confidence that that will work. So doing something on your own without support is very difficult. So, and running these firms is ambiguous, as you said. You don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. So that support system is an absolute must. So the other is,
No,
if you can
very.
raise money, raise money. That makes life easy.
I think this is something which uh, is very interesting. I'm hearing for the first time in terms of partnerships. I've had multiple partnerships in our business. Some have succeeded, many have
Hmm.
succeeded, few have failed, especially in the initial phases of life.
Hmm.
But the analogy you gave, if you can't convince two or three people with your vision, right? I mean, that's very very insightful. It's a very different way of looking at getting co-founders on board.
Sure.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Because ultimately, you have to sell your vision to your team, to your
Oh
investors, to
yeah,
your
yeah.
partners, to your
Everybody,
customers, everyone.
everybody.
That's our job, right? Nice, nice. No, and fascinating, Param. And if I were to summarize your life based on the notes I've taken, uh, I think the most important thing was when you were unclear or when you're ambiguous, you go with the flow. I mean, trusting people and not your instincts at that time. But when your instinct starts to kick in, where there is clarity which comes, then you go with your instincts, forgetting what others talk about. That's when you move to employment. And I loved your 100 days of disappointment. I mean, 30 days of disappointment and 1 day of salary of
Yeah, yeah.
excitement vis-a-vis 100 days of happiness for 1 day of disappointment.
Disappointment. And
I
sometimes
mean,
that is not even disappointment. Most of the time, sometimes it just succeeded as well. I'm not saying it will
it's
succeed
learning,
every
right?
time.
You can say it's a
Yeah,
learning of
yeah. It's okay.
what not to do. I mean, fascinating, Pawan. This is a real joy of having such conversations. I mean, you get to learn so much from your journey. Lovely, lovely.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, and I truly hope you are able to share this with your family and team members, because most of the times, right, founders' journeys, they're not we don't write like the Western world where everything is chronicled. Indians, we don't have a sense of history from that. Uh,
Mhm.
because here, where I see in the US, every narrative is photographed and chronicled,
Mhm.
timestamped, and that acts as such a big inspiration when subsequent generations actually want to uh, understand and believe what their forefathers have done.
Sure.
So, thank you, thanks for your
Sure.
time, and thanks for sharing your wisdom and insights, Param.
Oh, yeah, sure. You're most welcome.